not to keep you guys too long, and if you've got a split, we can wrap it up here. But going back 2 weeks, I am interested to get your take on the Desmond Howard comment at the Heisman ceremony. If that meant anything to you, if you thought it was a slight, it was stupid, it didn't matter, he was a clown, whatever you thought, Steve, of that. The Tim Tebow led into it, and then Desmond Howard with the comment about C.J. Stroud and the offensive line and really throwing them under the bus.
Yeah, it was very much out of place. I've been watching that presentation for 40 years, and it is usually very tradition-laden and very stoic. And, to me, he should lose his privilege of speaking on that broadcast going forward. This was not a episode of College Game Day where they, grab ass each other and, jab each other. Somebody says something funny about Georgia to Pollock, and somebody says something funny about Ohio State to Herbie, and somebody says something funny about Indiana to Corso. That wasn't that. There's a time and a place for that, and that wasn't the time and that wasn't the place. And he should never be able to speak on that broadcast again. If he wants to stand in the back with the group of guys that won it in the 80s, feel free. But he lost his privilege, in my opinion. They took, Gary McCord off the Masters broadcast from CBS, 20 years ago, because he said some funny things about, they were bikini waxing the greens at Augusta National to make them faster, just kind of a funny comment. Well, the stoic people who run Augusta National said he's never speaking on the broadcast again. We'll take it to another network if you don't pull him off there. So for years, he was doing every golf broadcast on CBS except the Masters. That's what needs to happen to Desmond Howard. Nobody else seems to care about it. I think I'm the only person in America that really cares about it. The Ohio State players were pissed about it last week when they were asked about it. Thayer Munford said he could kick rocks, but Ryan Day took the high road. Bully for him, good for him. But to my way of thinking, he should never be allowed to address the players or speak on that broadcast again.
I think the bigger issue I have is that he then went to Twitter to attack people who attacked him and basically acted like a buffoon on Twitter. So you made a dumb comment. It happens. I mean, whatever. But then doubling down the way that he did on social media was ill-advised, of clown-like qualities. It was not a good look. And you know what? It is what it is. Everybody has an opinion, like they have a what, and they all stink. So it's fine, but whatever. But I was more off-put by him going on and clowning on Twitter about it, and it'll be remembered. I mean, nobody on Ohio State's going to line up against Desmond Howard at any point on a football field, but it's certainly something that will be remembered, especially here in the short term, by C.J. Stroud, who then just recently had a post on Twitter with some pictures and said, this is how villains are made or whatever. And you know what? If Ohio State gets a little bit more juice, a little bit more fire, a little bit more spark out of CJ as a leader, then I call it a win.
I really didn't like it. It's not the time. It's not the place. It shows a lack of respect for the award. Even though I also have a lack of respect for the award, I would still not do something like that there, especially as Desmond Howard winning the award. I hadn't even thought about that, but that's a good idea by Steve to not allow him to speak on the broadcast, because clearly he didn't have respect for the broadcast, didn't have respect for everybody there, certainly didn't have respect for C.J. Stroud or his offensive line, and that's not what you should be doing for any college football player that is there, especially one of the 4 finalists. So it was a slap in the face to C.J. Stroud, to his offensive line, to Ryan Day, and it was interesting trying to see people try to get Ryan Day to respond to that last week, and he just wouldn't. And he just talked about his respect for the Heisman Trophy, and that was that. And very disappointing. And then as Kevin said, for Desmond to just do what Desmond does and then double down and say, "Oh, me and CJ are good." It's like he says that you're good, but I guarantee you, if you were on fire, I'm not sure he would blank on you to put you out.
Yeah. Well, the other clown, Charles Woodson, can wave the Michigan flag. He did it at Michigan State, and he did it for the Ohio State game. And it's perfectly fine for a guy on Fox to do that. Howard basically does the same type of thing on the ESPN broadcast. And yet, Kirk Herbstreit and Joey Galloway played straight down the middle and don't seem to favor Ohio State all that much. And the people from Ohio State crap all over them because they're not homering for Ohio State. And it's like it's a double standard. And, I don't know. It's college football. You got to have some fun with it. I get that. But I don't know. It as I said, there's a time and a place for those type of comments. And that just wasn't it. I mean, it never has been and never will be. I mean, you think about, those broadcasts for the longest time were the doggonedest, quietest, dullest broadcasts in the history of sports. Everyone would sit around and talk in hushed tones for 30 minutes, and then they'd give it away. It's like, okay, well, now they've expanded it to an hour and featured, everybody and really do a nice job presenting it. And you have this guy kind of ruining it and really putting one of the finalists who earned his way to New York, was clearly one of the top 4 players in the country, was the favorite to win it up until the day they lost to Michigan. It puts him in an uncomfortable situation on national television. Is that acceptable? I don't think that is. Kid's 19 years old and he's put in in a uncomfortable position for none of his. He stood on his head against Michigan. The kid threw for over 300 and some yards and 2 touchdowns. He didn't throw a pick. He didn't get him beat. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Exactly. You're hitting on where I'm at on this. And because, of course, people's initial reaction is Ohio State fans can't take it. Okay, put that aside. Put everybody else, Ohio State fans, whether they get put off by it or not. CJ Stroud, this is his night along with the other finalists. This is his night. Desmond Howard, you can be a clown every other day of the week on TV. You can be the star. You can put yourself in the spotlight. That is not the time to do it. That is his moment. That is not, you are supposed to be a host, a professional. CJ Stroud also didn't have a mic, and he's like 19 years old. You're 50 years old. You're supposed to be the adult. You're supposed to be the professional. And he acted like more the professional CJ Stroud. And just, what could he do? What should he have done? Exactly what he did. Nothing.
Yeah.
They let Desmond stammer through the show or whatever. They've enabled him through the whole time that they've had on the show. And, oh, he's just so good-natured and blah, 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 blah. And it's just, I don't know. I think in a lot of ways he is kind of a result of what they've turned him into in terms of what his character is on game day. And it just makes it, it makes it, I think it was a low rent move by Desmond, but I think ESPN kind of created its own issue with him there. And hell, everybody's still, we're talking about it now. I was in New York for the Heisman, and it didn't get as much buzz in there because you're in a private media room and you're kind of separated from it all. But it's the most that nobody's talking about Bryce Young winning the Heisman. We're still sitting here talking about Desmond Howard and his ill-advised comments about Ohio State and CJ Stroud and so forth.
Yeah, just show me another instance of this happening any other Heisman year, and then I'll say okay. Still shouldn't do it, but it's happened before.
Yeah, and it has been a stuffy presentation for years and years, as Steve outlined, and I can appreciate them trying to bring a little more personality into it. That's great, but in a classy way. It's still maybe the most prestigious award, whether you like it or not, or the voting process. I have some issues with it, but I still consider it the most prestigious award, at least in major American sports. And yeah, that was just not the time and place. And to somebody who mentioned this, yeah, CJ Stroud could have said, Yeah, I threw for almost 400 yards, and so my offensive line did a fine job, and so did I. So, you know, it just clownish and buffoonery. And we had a debate on this on our Michigan show, and the other point that I made was, and maybe somebody made it here, that you're taking away from C.J. Stroud and the other and everyone there, the other candidates, who's going to remember what from this when the 2021 Heisman Trophy presentation is brought up? What does anyone remember from any of these? They just remember who won. They don't remember their speech unless it was some historic John Cappelletti moment. But basically that happens once a generation. So what are people going to remember? Everybody that remembers anything from this is going to remember that. And that's not what it's for.